Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Sunday, July 6th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will see a high of 94.5 degrees Fahrenheit with a low of 66.1 degrees. It's shaping up to be a warm one, so be sure to stay cool and hydrated if you're spending time outdoors. Coming up on Alex's News, we'll be discussing why Iran's nuclear program is increasingly shrouded in secrecy, raising questions and concerns among global powers. Additionally, we'll examine the unique factors that are contributing to making this year's hurricane season particularly challenging, from ocean temperatures to atmospheric conditions. All this and more, coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Our top story this morning centers on a significant development out of Tehran, where Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has made his first public appearance since the recent hostilities with Israel concluded. Joining us now to shed some light on this and what it means for escalating nuclear concerns is our international affairs reporter, Ethan. Ethan, it certainly seems like Khamenei has emerged from the shadows. Tell us about his reappearance.
Grace, that's right. He certainly has, making quite a public splash. According to NPR and The Guardian, the 86-year-old leader was seen yesterday, Saturday, July 5th, in Tehran. It was his first public outing since the 12-day conflict between Israel and Iran ended with a ceasefire on June 24th. He attended a solemn mourning ceremony for Ashura, a significant date for Shiite Muslims. For those unfamiliar, Ashura commemorates the 7th century martyrdom of the Prophet Muhammad's grandson, Hussein.
So a highly symbolic appearance. What was the atmosphere like at the event?
Well, Grace, state media videos, as reported by Al Jazeera and The Guardian, showed Khamenei dressed in black, waving and nodding to a fervent, chanting crowd at the Imam Khomeini Mosque. The crowd reportedly chanted, quote, "The blood in our veins for our leader," end quote. Interestingly, Grace, no public statement was reported from him during the ceremony, a detail noted by NPR. His last public sighting before the war had been just 2 days prior to Israel's initial surprise airstrikes on June 13th.
A low profile for a supreme leader during such a volatile period. His reemergence follows a significant conflict. Briefly, what were the key events of that war?
Absolutely, Grace. The conflict, which raged from June 13th to June 24th, was ignited by Israel's surprise airstrikes, aiming to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon, an ambition Tehran has consistently denied, as The Guardian reported. The hostilities involved Israeli attacks targeting Iran's defense systems and officials. Then, on June 22nd, the United States bombed 3 key Iranian nuclear sites, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, according to Al Jazeera.
And what about the human cost and the damage inflicted?
It was devastating, Grace. Iran acknowledged over 900 deaths and serious damage to its nuclear facilities within its borders, reports NPR and Al Jazeera. In retaliation, Iran fired over 550 ballistic missiles at Israel, which resulted in at least 28 deaths and damage, according to NPR and Al Jazeera. There was heated rhetoric, too. U.S. President Donald Trump sent warnings to Khamenei via social media. Post-ceasefire, on June 26th, Khamenei claimed a, quote, slap to America's face, end quote, by striking a U.S. airbase in Qatar. Trump countered, saying, quote, "You got beat to hell," end quote.
Quite the war of words. Now, the biggest concern is the status of Iran's nuclear program. What's the latest assessment there, especially with Iran now seemingly slamming the door on international oversight?
That's the critical question, Grace. While Iran confirmed serious damage, the extent is debated. Trump claimed U.S. strikes had, quote, obliterated, end quote, Iran's capabilities. However, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi contradicted this on CBS News, saying damage was severe but, quote, not total, end quote, and Iran could still produce enriched uranium, quote, in a matter of months, end quote, due to its industrial capacity. The Pentagon later assessed on July 2nd, just 4 days ago, that the strikes delayed Iran's program by 1 to 2 years.
So, a delay, but not a complete shutdown, according to some. What about the IAEA's access? That seems critical for independent verification.
Precisely, Grace. Iran has since denied access to IAEA inspectors, and President Masoud Pezeshkian ordered cooperation suspended, further limiting inspection of its uranium enrichment program, as detailed by NPR and Al Jazeera. This creates what's being called an, quote, unprecedented crisis, end quote, with no unified assessment due to lack of independent verification. Experts worry military intervention might inadvertently push Iran to pursue a covert nuclear weapons program as a deterrent. The, quote, breakout time, end quote, to produce weapons-grade uranium is assessed to have significantly shortened. Iran has likely activated a parallel clandestine program utilizing smaller, undeclared sites. The search for these covert sites is a top priority for Western intelligence agencies, reported in supplementary news sources.
That is certainly unsettling. One final quick note, Ethan. Was there any impact on digital infrastructure during Khamenei's appearance?
Yes, Grace. On the day of Khamenei's public appearance, Saturday, July 5th, NetBlocks, a global internet monitor, reported a, quote, major disruption to internet connectivity, end quote, in Iran, which was later restored after about 2 hours. This followed earlier internet shutdowns during the war, according to NPR.
Ethan, thank you for untangling this complex web of information for us. It sounds like the nuclear issue is far from a closed chapter. We appreciate your insights.
My pleasure, Grace.
We'll be right back with more news after this short break. We have story 2 of 2 coming up. Welcome back. We turn now to a pressing concern as we head further into summer, the Atlantic hurricane season. It's expected to be an unusually active one this year, and we have reporter Chloe with us to shed some light on what we can expect and how we can all be better prepared. Chloe, what's the latest outlook for the 2025 hurricane season?
Grace, it's certainly a storm brewing on the horizon, if you will. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is predicting an above-normal season with a 60% likelihood. They forecast between 13 to 19 named storms. To put that in perspective, an average season usually sees around 14 named storms. Of those, 6 to 10 are expected to become hurricanes, meaning winds of 74 miles per hour or more, and 3 to 5 could intensify into major hurricanes, reaching Category 3, 4, or 5, with winds exceeding 111 miles per hour. NOAA expresses 70% confidence in these projections.
That sounds like a significant increase. What factors are contributing to this anticipated uptick in storm activity?
Well, NOAA points to a few key culprits. First, we're looking at a potential transition to La Niña conditions, which typically reduces wind shear in the Atlantic, making it easier for storms to form and strengthen. Secondly, we're seeing warmer than average sea surface temperatures, which act as fuel for hurricanes. Think of it as a warmer bathtub for these storms to grow in. And finally, a strong West African monsoon is expected, which can create the atmospheric waves that often seed tropical systems. This season officially runs from June 1st to November 30th, and NOAA's Climate Prediction Center is slated to update its outlook in early August, so we're just weeks away from their refined forecast.
Given such a busy forecast, preparedness is paramount. What are emergency officials advising residents, particularly those in coastal areas, to do right now?
That's absolutely right, Grace. Emergency management officials are really hammering home the message of proactive planning. Brian Mason of Houston's Office of Emergency Management Sean Schultz from the American Red Cross Texas Gulf Coast region, and Misty Hinote of the Texas Department of Insurance all stress that early little steps can make a big difference, significantly reducing stress and damage. They emphasize that preparedness isn't just about weathering the storm, it's about enabling self-sufficiency for days or even weeks if services are disrupted.
So what are some of those critical little steps that individuals should be taking to prepare their homes and families?
The best time to prepare is well in advance, Grace, not when the storm is knocking on your door. For home preparation, think about securing your property. Bring in or tie down outdoor items, board up windows, or have pre-cut plywood ready. Also crucial are annual roof inspections, cleaning gutters, installing hurricane straps or clips to secure your roof, and reinforcing garage doors. Know how to turn off your utilities and have sandbags ready if you're in a flood-prone area. And don't forget to review your insurance coverage and create a detailed home inventory. Beyond the home, you need an emergency kit for staying put, with supplies for at least 3 to 7 days. That means 1 gallon of water per person per day, a 7-day supply of non-perishable food with a manual can opener, flashlights, extra batteries, candles, and a battery-operated radio. Don't forget prescription medications, a first aid kit, portable power banks, and cash. If you have pets, remember their 7-day supply of food, water, and medication too.
And what about evacuation plans? That can be a whole different ballgame.
It truly can be, Grace. A well-thought-out evacuation plan is essential. Have a separate emergency kit for travel. Know your primary and backup evacuation routes, anticipate congestion, and fuel your vehicles in advance. For electric vehicle owners, map routes with charging stations. Designate a destination, whether it's a friend's or relative's home, a hotel, or a shelter. Remember, sometimes evacuating tens of miles, not hundreds, is enough to get to safety. Develop a family emergency plan, deciding how to contact each other if separated, keeping a written list of important phone numbers, and designating an out-of-town contact person. Also establish a designated meeting place both in your neighborhood and outside your immediate area.
While individual preparedness is vital, what are some of the broader challenges that go beyond household measures, especially if we see multiple major hurricane landfalls?
That's a critical point, Grace. Experts warn that standard household measures, while crucial, are simply insufficient for widespread devastation from multiple major hurricanes. For instance, a 3 to 7 day supply of provisions is inadequate if power grids, water treatment plants, and supply chains are crippled for weeks or even months, as we saw with Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. Evacuation plans can fail due to widespread flooding, debris-blocked roads, and fuel shortages. Communication blackouts, where cellular and internet services fail, can isolate individuals, making it impossible to call for help. Critical facilities like hospitals, which rely on power and clean water, can become inoperable, as happened during Hurricane Katrina. Modern systems are interconnected. A failure in one area can cascade, impacting water, sewage, transportation, and communication, creating a complex crisis far beyond individual management.
That really underscores the need for a multi-layered approach. What are emergency management experts and government agencies doing at the community and national levels to build resilience?
They are focusing on higher-level strategies to harden our communities, Grace. This includes investing in resilient infrastructure, like burying power lines, elevating substations, and reinforcing bridges. They're also implementing comprehensive and integrated disaster planning, using frameworks like the National Disaster Recovery Framework to integrate federal, state, and local governments with nonprofits and the private sector. Public-private partnerships are key for things like debris removal and rapid restoration of communication. They're also establishing community-based resilience hubs, equipped with backup power and communication, continually improving forecasting models and evacuation studies, and prioritizing the rapid restoration of essential services post-disaster.
Now, Chloe, we've already seen Tropical Storm Chantal make landfall in the Carolinas just this past Sunday, July 6th, 2025. How did that first test go, and what are officials learning from it?
Chantal made landfall with maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour, bringing heavy rains of 2 to 4 inches, with isolated areas getting up to 6 inches and potential flash flooding. The National Hurricane Center issued tropical storm warnings. While many residents heeded warnings, some reportedly underestimated the storm's potential, according to officials and news outlets monitoring the situation. State and local emergency management agencies in both North and South Carolina activated their operations centers, focusing on timely warnings and immediate response.
And what's the concern with a relatively weaker storm like Chantal hitting at the start of an anticipated active season?
It raises concerns about something called normalcy bias, Grace. This is a cognitive bias where people underestimate a disaster's likelihood and impact based on past experiences. Successfully weathering a weaker storm like Chantal with minimal consequences can dangerously reinforce the belief that future, more powerful storms will also be manageable. This leads to a false sense of security and can cause people to neglect crucial preparedness activities like evacuating or securing property. It's often referred to as the cry wolf effect. Emergency officials and media outlets face the challenge of providing accurate information about immediate threats without inadvertently fostering this complacency. They must consistently differentiate the threats posed by storms of varying intensities. It's a delicate balance to strike.
It certainly sounds like a tricky tightrope walk. Chloe, thank you for breaking down this crucial information for us. We really appreciate your insights on how to weather the storm this hurricane season.
My pleasure, Grace.
Here are some other headlines. In a major diplomatic pivot, the UK is building new bridges to Damascus. Foreign Secretary David Lammy made a historic visit to Syria, the first by a UK minister in 14 years, following the collapse of the Assad regime. The UK is pledging a nearly £95 million aid package for humanitarian needs and will help with the hazardous cleanup of old chemical weapons. But the move is drawing some fire, as Britain re-engages with a new government that includes the leader of HTS, a group the UK still officially lists as a terrorist organization, though there are whispers that status could be under review. Meanwhile, a confidential UN report is accusing Rwanda of playing a dirty game in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The report alleges Rwanda has provided critical support, including armed drones, to M23 rebels and is smuggling conflict minerals like coltan out of the region at unprecedented levels. It seems the battle over the elements in our smartphones is fueling the conflict. Rwandan President Paul Kagame has fiercely denied the accusations, calling the report baseless. The United States, however, says the findings align with its own intelligence and is calling on Rwanda to withdraw its troops from the DRC. In Colombia, authorities say they've caught the alleged mastermind behind the assassination attempt on Senator Miguel Uribe Turbay. The suspect, identified as Elder Jose Arteaga Hernandez, was arrested in Bogotá nearly a month after the senator was shot during a campaign rally. Senator Uribe, a vocal critic of the current president, remains in intensive care. Arteaga Hernandez faces a slew of charges, including attempted homicide and using a minor to commit a crime, as a 15-year-old is the accused gunman. The attack has resurrected fears of the dark era of political violence that once plagued the nation. And in a story that's a real 1-2 punch, the son of boxing legend Julio Cesar Chavez finds himself on the ropes with the law. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was arrested in Los Angeles, not just for overstaying his visa, but on a Mexican warrant for alleged arms and drug trafficking. U.S. authorities are connecting him to the Sinaloa cartel through his marriage into the family of former kingpin El Chapo Guzman. The news has sent a shockwave through his hometown of Culiacan, where his father is a revered hero, proving that some heavyweight battles are fought outside the ring. Finally, a legal battle over deportations has reached its final destination. A federal judge briefly halted the removal of 8 immigrants to South Sudan, a country where they hold no citizenship. But the judge ultimately ruled his hands were tied by a recent Supreme Court decision, allowing the deportation to proceed. The men, who were convicted of serious crimes in the U.S., were flown to South Sudan from a U.S. military base. The case highlights the Trump administration's policy of deporting non-citizens with criminal records, even to third countries, despite humanitarian concerns and State Department travel warnings for the region. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.